on this edition for Sunday, August 8th. Driven by the Delta variant, COVID-19 cases surge. The Tokyo Olympics draw to a close. And in our signature segment, looking for carbon-efficient solutions for one of the most consumed substances on Earth. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the Anderson Family Fund, the estate of Worthington Mayo Smith, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation, the Rosalind P. Walter Foundation, Koo and Patricia Ewan, committed to bridging cultural differences in our communities, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular has been offering no-contract wireless plans designed to help people do more of what they like. Our U.S.-based customer service team can help find a plan that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Delta variant continues to drive a surge in coronavirus infections, hospitalizations, and deaths in the United States. Across the country, 38 states have a, quote, high level of community transmission with case positivity rates above 10%, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The rest of the U.S. is categorized as, quote, substantial level of community transmission. In states like Florida and Louisiana, daily case counts are at an all-time high, with health officials sounding the alarm.
We continue to not yet see any tangible signs that we are turning a corner. And that, quite frankly, is terrifying.
The number of daily vaccinations is trending up, but remains 80% below the peak of 3.5 million daily doses reached in mid-April. Today, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's chief infectious disease official, said he hopes full approval from the Federal Food and Drug Administration for a COVID vaccine will come in the next few weeks. The upgrade from the current emergency use authorization would clear the way for more local vaccine mandates. With the school year already underway in many places around the country, the question of whether masks should be required in schools to protect children under 12 not eligible for vaccines has become a flashpoint.
Our children, our choice!
New Jersey Democratic Governor Phil Murphy reversed an earlier policy on Friday and said masks would be required in all public and private schools in the state.
Anyone telling you that we can safely reopen our schools without requiring everyone inside to wear a mask is quite simply lying to you.
In Arkansas, more than 900 students and staff had to quarantine after an outbreak when school started last week in the Marion School District. Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson says he now regrets signing a bill banning mask mandates.
If we're going to have a successful school year, school districts like Marion need to have that option to require masks for those lower grades or make the decision that's suitable for their community.
Arkansas is one of at least 8 states with a ban on mask mandates, but on Friday, a state judge temporarily blocked the ban, opening the door there to local mask requirements. In Afghanistan, Taliban fighters took control of a portion of another provincial capital today. The government said fighting continued in and around the city of Kunduz in northern Afghanistan. Yesterday, the Taliban seized capitals in 2 other provinces. U.S. and NATO troops are withdrawing from the country after 20 years, and both U.S. and British officials are urging their citizens to leave immediately. Wildfires swept through Greece for the 6th straight day today. Flames tore through forests and bone-dry brush on the country's second-largest island, threatening homes and villages. Aircraft dropped fire retardants as smoke covered huge areas. Roads were blocked and ferries stayed on standby after more than 80 people were evacuated from beaches overnight. Drought conditions and temperatures more than 110 degrees have turned the region into a tinderbox. Heat and drought are also causing Northern California's Dixie Fire to continue burning. The fire has grown into the second largest wildfire in California history. As of this morning, 4 people were still unaccounted for after the fire destroyed the town of Greenville last week. For more of today's stories and the latest national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. The final medals were presented and the Olympic torch was extinguished as the Tokyo Olympic Games officially ended after 16 days of competition and a year-long delay. Today's closing ceremonies, like the Games themselves, were held in front of empty stands and a sparse crowd of athletes and volunteers. In Paris, thousands turned out to welcome the Olympic Games to France, which will host the 2024 Summer Games. New York Times Tokyo Bureau Chief Motoko Rich joined me to talk about this year's unprecedented Olympics. So Motoko, we checked in with you right after the Olympics started, and we were predicting kind of a strange Olympics without fans, and well, I guess it was, because when you look at track and field events and you look at all these other events in large arenas, you expect the roar of the crowd, influencing points, jazzing up the athletes. That wasn't there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was at the athletics, the last event, which was the 4x4 relay, which was incredibly exciting. Allison Felix won her 11th medal, surpassing Carl Lewis as the most decorated track and field Olympian, American Olympian of all time. Something like that, as they're kind of racing around the track, you expect, the crowds to be going wild, and there's nothing of the sort. So there was that sort of bittersweet feeling every time we were in one of the venues. You could feel how empty they were, and you could hear sounds that you probably wouldn't have heard before. I watched table tennis, and you could hear every, grunt and wheeze and the ball hitting the table. And I don't know if it had been a big crowd, if I would have been able to hear that.
Everyone's concern was that this would be the global super spreader event. So in some ways, the IOC, the city of Tokyo, can walk away from this saying, yeah, it got worse, but it didn't get as bad as everybody was kind of worried about.
I mean, it's a little bit of a kind of a two-pronged story. Inside the bubble, it is fair to say that they did seem to manage it fairly well. I mean, all told, there were probably like 436 cases inside the bubble. But at the same time, the daily cases in Tokyo more than tripled. Most people say that you can't draw a direct line between the Olympics, obviously, given how low the case rate was inside the bubble. But there is a question of whether Tokyoites were watching the fact that these Olympics were going on and saying, okay, well, we can go out and party too.
You've watched probably more hours because you've been getting paid too to keep track of all this. But what stood out to you over the past couple of weeks?
Well, obviously a big storyline here was about Simone Biles. I mean, that was a shock. Nobody was expecting that. Naomi Osaka was also knocked out of competition. So it just sort of felt these really huge stars were suddenly out of the games. And so I think that really kind of consumed the first week of the games. At least for me, little tiny moments, even in the marathon at the very end, the silver and the bronze medal, the silver medalists, they're friends. And you could see him kind of gesturing for his friend, come on, we're going to make it to the finish line. It was also the first time since 1900 that an Indian track and field athlete won a medal, and he actually won gold with the javelin. And there were those moments, but I think we can't forget that there were also other moments, like, for example, politics intruded very clearly into the games when the Belarusian sprinter, her country tried to force her to go home after she criticized the coaches. And of course, underlying all of this, everybody's looking forward or anticipating what might happen in Beijing. It's only 6 months away, and there's a lot of questioning about what will happen, whether the IOC, how are they going to manage the protests and the condemnation. This is a country that has been condemned as committing genocide. So you have on the one hand, this joy and sportsmanship. On the other hand, you have this very real sense of politics that's not necessarily being addressed head on.
How do the Japanese fans, how do the Japanese citizens feel now that this whirlwind has gone through?
As many as 80% of the Japanese public said they really didn't want the games to happen this year because of the pandemic. That was before they started. And as always happens, there's always somebody who's against the Olympics before they start. And once the games get started and people are watching on television, they get very excited about that. And that happened here just as anywhere else. Japan had a pretty good medal haul, and they won golds in some of the new sports like skateboarding. So I think that kind of lifted everybody's spirits. That being said, I think there's going to be some serious serious reckoning about the cost and sacrifices that were made with this event on. And it's not just about Tokyo, it's about any potential host city is going to be looking at the Tokyo Games and thinking, do I really want to do that?
Toko Rich of the New York Times joining us from Japan. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Last month, thousands took to the streets across Cuba to protest a failing economy, food shortages, and a growing number of COVID-19 cases. Drawing support through the power of social media, it was one of the country's biggest anti-government demonstrations in decades. In Miami, Florida, young people continue to gather in the streets to demand change for the Cuban people. Student Reporting Lab's Delta Flores, a Gwen Ifill Fellow, has the story.
The youth of Cuba are leading the call, Patria y Vida, and the people of Miami are now responding.
What's right? We in the United States value our human rights, our freedom of speech, our freedom of press. Every freedom that we have, that's non-existent in Cuba. It does not exist.
I'm just so inspired by what's happening in the island, especially all the young people that are taking a stand, and I just want to be part of that as much as I can here to show my support.
Since the July 11th protests erupted in Cuba, young people have been coming to the streets in Miami's Little Havana to show their support.
In prison cells, political prisoners die every single day. SFC is just a group of students, a group of young people who have the same motivation, drive, and passion for a free Cuba and to end the acts against humanity that this repression and this dictatorship has been doing for more than 62 years.
Sebastián Arcos, Assistant Director of the Cuban Research Institute at Florida International University, says that young Cubans on the island are driving the push for change.
They are fed up with the fact that they cannot act independently and improve their lives independently from the government. That is the nature, the very nature of a totalitarian society. And in Miami is an echo of that.
Technology has given this generation of Cubans a tool their older relatives didn't have.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they've been able to enter the internet despite being blocked through VPN services, and all of that has been able to see, again, how life is different, as well as the movement. From what's happening today, the march, they're able to see that march. They're able to see the concerts. They're able to see the people standing here and demanding action and just letting them know we're not going to let you alone. We're not going to leave you alone over there. We're going to fight for you here as much as we can.
All their internet is down. The Cuban government, they don't want other people to know how they're treating their people. So we stand here not only as Hispanic Cuban representatives, but youth as well, passing on the torch to young Cuban people, young Hispanics, or just young people who care about Cuba.
The number of young protesters in both Cuba and Miami is giving hope to the older generation.
What we're seeing is a passing of the torch from that generation to the next. And this is fundamentally important because older Cubans in Miami and in the island can now rest assured that this fight for freedom will continue, and it's a very important sign of hope for the future of Cuba.
And the protesters today on Calle Ocho echo that sentiment.
Mi gente, sigue fajando, sigue luchando, que nosotros estamos contigo. Miami y el mundo entero, we're with you, always 100%, and we're not gonna stop until you guys are free.
Next to water, concrete is the most consumed substance on the planet, with more than 4.4 billion tons produced every year, a number that is expected to grow to 5.5 billion by 2050. But its popularity comes at an environmental cost. The production of concrete, which is made with cement mix, contributes about 8% of all carbon dioxide emissions worldwide. NewsHour Weekend's Maury Rothman reports on how some manufacturers are working to try to reduce the industry's carbon footprint. This story is part of our ongoing initiative peril and promise, the challenge of climate change.
About an hour's drive north of Philadelphia, here in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley, the American cement industry was born. Cement, which binds together sand and rocks to form concrete, was largely produced in Europe and shipped to the U.S. until the late 1800s. The Lehigh Valley's rich deposits of limestone, the key ingredient in cement, and the adoption of rotary kilns, which are still used today, made U.S. cement manufacturers competitive with European producers.
This plant is actually one of the oldest running plants in North America.
Jamie Gentoso is the global head of solutions and products, and the former head of U.S. Cement for LafargeHolcim, one of the biggest manufacturers of concrete in the world. LafargeHolcim owns the Whitehall cement plant, which is over 122 years old.
You can't even imagine the modern world without concrete. If you start to think about it, we wouldn't have airports, we wouldn't have clean drinking water, bridges, dams, your home, the roads we drive on. It's literally everywhere.
Globally, more than 4.4 billion tons of concrete are produced every year, and that number is expected to go up to 5.5 billion by 2050.
Concrete is a product that people don't think about. When you wake up in the morning, you're not thinking about concrete. In the end, it is the second most consumed product in the world, next to water.
But lately, concrete has been under more scrutiny. That's because the concrete industry is responsible for about 8% of carbon dioxide emissions worldwide.
You know, you have environmentalists and people really starting to understand the footprint that we have. What we need to do is decouple the volume issue of concrete with, the actual issue, right?
There's so much of it being used that inevitably, even if concrete is a slightly lower carbon footprint than a lot of other building materials, you're just using so much of it that inevitably you're going to be a large part of global emissions.
Yes, but also to be clear, it's cement that has the large carbon footprint, it's not concrete.
Cement manufacturing is an energy-intensive process. First, limestone is collected from a quarry, crushed and mixed with clay and other materials. It's then heated in a giant kiln at 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. To reach those high temperatures, coal and other fossil fuels are needed. Additionally, the limestone itself goes through a chemical reaction, releasing CO2 as it's heated up. The end product, known as clinker, is ground to a fine dust with gypsum to make cement. Gentoso says they're reducing CO2 emissions by using alternative fuel like recycled tires and renewable energy sources.
Looking at this larger problem of the emissions that we're trying to shrink, walk me through what is possible right now and what's on the horizon.
Yeah, so net zero is the goal, but obviously we're pretty far from that. So we've got some short-term goals and things that we're working on for 2030. So we have process emissions, which are just the function of utilizing limestone, right? We're heating it up, they're driving off the CO2. And what we call those are fact of life emissions. If you want to make cement out of limestone, you're going to end up driving off that CO2. And then on the other side is the combustion emissions. So we work on those combustion emissions by trying to find lower CO2 fuels.
Gentoso says to reach net zero, LafargeHolcim will need to utilize carbon capture technology. They're retrofitting a cement plant in Colorado as a pilot project and hope to expand the program to more plants in the U.S. Additionally, they're working with Solidia, a company that reduces CO2 emissions with a new cement formula.
Okay, so what we have here are all the raw material components that go into the concrete mix.
Devin Patton is the Director of Technology Deployment at Solidia.
We manufacture Solidia cement at a lower temperature, so less energy requirements in making it, and with less limestone, so less burning of calcium carbonate, which releases CO2 into the atmosphere. So overall, you have about a 30% reduction in the emissions associated with the cement manufacturing. And then we take CO2 and put it right back into the cement during the curing process, which hardens the concrete. And that's as much as 21% CO2 by weight of cement.
Okay, so if I had a ton of cement, 21% of a ton of CO2 I could put back into that.
Exactly.
Solidia makes precast concrete, or concrete blocks that are produced at a facility, versus ready-mix concrete, which can be poured at a construction site and makes up the majority of the concrete market.
What's far down the pipe in development for us right now is the application to get into the ready-mix marketplace.
Developing new lower carbon concrete is the first step. Patton says getting widespread adoption in the industry is the next challenge.
We've had a tremendously positive reception, and this is in an industry that is not exactly eager to change. It's an old industry, but once we go on site, we demonstrate what all these benefits are, the reception has been overwhelmingly positive.
There are some smart ways that we could incentivize large producers of concrete and cement to decarbonize their products.
Assembly member Robert Carroll represents New York's 44th District. In 2019, he introduced a bill in the New York State Assembly that would give preference to lower carbon concrete in the bidding process for state-funded projects. New Jersey has a similar bill.
There's a real cost to carbon. And because there's a real cost to carbon, we're going to incentivize folks who produce concrete with a lower global warming potential score, which is an international standard that says how much a product impacts our environment. And when a producer provides concrete with a lower global warming potential score, they'll basically get a 5% bonus that will allow their product to be slightly 5% more expensive, but would still be able to win a bidding process in New York State's procurement process.
Carroll's bill passed both chambers in June and is awaiting Governor Andrew Cuomo's signature. The bill would set up a task force to examine giving preference to bids from low-carbon concrete producers and define state specifications for low-carbon concrete.
We have set the most aggressive carbon emissions target in the nation, with a mandate of reducing emissions by 40% by 2030 and 80% by 2050.
2 years ago, New York passed the Climate Leadership Act, setting ambitious goals for carbon emission reductions in the state.
Climate Leadership Act puts out really big goals of bringing down basically our net emissions to zero by 2040. Well, we're not going to meet those goals unless we do things like this. There are some boards and panels that they've set up to try to figure out ways to incentivize ideas like this. This, sets it in stone.
In New York and New Jersey, they have bills pending that would give preference to projects that use lower carbon concrete. Is that needed?
Yeah, I definitely think it's one of the pieces, right? We work very closely with our local governments to try to help them understand, that buy clean is something that's completely necessary. It's one of the pieces, but it also takes us as manufacturers making the change in the business from the upfront, right? We are in an industry that's pretty slow to change. Engineers like to specify what they know. Our products hold up buildings, they hold back water, they land planes. We are doing everything that we can to take the steps in the right direction to make our products more eco-friendly. We need help from our government, we need help from our customers. We're working on that from both sides, but the products that we produce provide great value for the industry and for the world.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
We've just reported on how some manufacturers are working to reduce carbon emissions from the production of cement and concrete, the foundation of building materials. Next week, as part of our ongoing initiative Peril and Promise, we'll go to the Netherlands, where they're producing energy-efficient homes by adding industrial retrofits to existing residential buildings. And other countries are taking note.
Funded initially by the Dutch government, Energiesprong's mission was to figure out how to industrialize energy efficiency. Part of that new standard, prefabrication and mass production. That's what's happening at this factory called RC Panels. Facades are produced at scale, made of thick insulation covered by a thin layer of fire-resistant polyester. The outer layer can be made to look like bricks. The bricks laid by robots that can place the 2,000 pieces needed for a typical panel in about 20 minutes.
They're very bendy bricks.
They're very bendy because it's only for aesthetics, actually.
And so you can kind of actually just break it in half.
Yes.
What does that mean when it's on the outside of a building?
Well, it just stays this way, but the only advantage is if for ages to come, you might want to demolish your building in about 50 years' time, and you can recycle it if you want to. And it means that there's much less material impact on the environment as well.
Leander Scherps-Kuhlmann brought us to a construction site where new facades were being attached to a complex of 300 apartments. The facades include new replacement doors and triple glazed windows built right in to save time on site.
We fit exactly.
To the millimetre.
To the millimetre. Because if you don't, the door just doesn't open because you have to have that same hole. It's tailor-made, but in a standardized process, and that's the trick.
That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the Anderson Family Fund, the estate of Worthington Mayo Smith, the Leonard and Norma Clorfine Foundation, the Rosalind P. Walter Foundation, Koo and Patricia Ewan, committed to bridging cultural differences in our communities, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. We try to live in the moment, to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. And by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.